Your daily dose of sports talk is here. Highlights, interviews, and analysis. From the entertainment capital of the world, SportsWrap with Jason Page starts now.
Welcome to it, Friday edition of the show. All across America and Canada, we are happy to have you with us. A lot to do over the next 60 minutes, a busy show. Page versus the Prince wraps it up a little later on. Week 15 NFL picks. Robin Lundberg will be here from Busted Open on SiriusXM Radio. Also from the Robin Lundberg Show on YouTube. Also from the SI Women's basketball coverage. He does everything. We'll talk to him about John Cena's retirement coming up a little later on. Robert Littal will be here. The founder of Black Sports Online joins us every Friday. Talk about the top stories of the week. We'll get his thoughts on one of the things we're about to discuss in the big story. Sam Yarnell will be here, as I mentioned, for Page versus the Prince, but we'll also get into the game from last night, which has a lot of people talking. The Falcons, stunning, coming back from 28-14 down in the fourth quarter. They rally and beat the Buccaneers 29-28. We'll talk about that as well with our friend Sam Yarnell. But as always, we do start things with the big story. And the big story still focuses on Sherrone Moore, and it probably will for the foreseeable days ahead, because there are still a lot of things to this story that have yet to play out. By the time you watch this show, we will probably have some sort of sense to what the charges are that are being filed against him in Michigan, an alleged assault that took place. So we're going to kind of stay away from most of that until we have more of the details on it from a legal perspective. But there's a lot to sort of... I started digging into the timeline on this whole thing last night. And as you dig into the timeline on this story, it does start to make you wonder about a few things. And in piecing it together, I start with the questions about the relationship before the season started. Now, in the autopsy of this whole thing, you're starting to find out, the university was asking questions about this relationship with an alleged staffer months ago. So there was obviously smoke. And now we've learned there was obviously a fire related to that smoke. They both denied having been in a relationship with one another before the season started. So then the season plays out. Michigan goes 7-2 in the Big Ten. They go 9-3 for the season. They lose to Ohio State, and they are subsequently not part of the college football playoff. Okay. Most people still thought at that point Sherrone Moore was probably going to keep his job. Well, the seat wasn't really hot. Well, then Michigan goes out and handles its business with regard to recruits. And they get the one signed that they want to get signed, and you have that part in place. And then mysteriously, as soon as all the pieces are in place, you have this woman who he is alleged to have had an affair with come forward and hand over all the goods. She dropped dime on Sherrone Moore and gave everything needed for the administration at the University of Michigan to give him the boot. The timing doesn't seem strange that all of this waited until after all of these different elements were in place, and then they were in a position where if they let him go, well, you've already got your recruits in place. You already know you're not going to the college football playoff. Yeah, you're playing in a bowl game, but anybody can coach the team in a bowl game. What does that really mean, right? That's suspicious to me. There's a part of that that just doesn't make sense. That just now, right after all of those elements are in place, you have a situation where this woman comes forward and drops all the information needed to basically doom his career. Then you have Warde Manuel, and that's the other part of this that I think is very important to talk about, who I know from my days at UConn, where he was the athletic director there. You have Warde Manuel giving the boot to Sherrone Moore, and he reportedly does so in a one-on-one meeting with somebody he knew to be emotionally unstable. That's another element to this. that was obviously going on. That you had this person that was known to be emotionally unstable, who is the leader of young men at your university. Put that aside for a moment. No HR in the room when Warde Manuel lets him go. It's just Moore and Manuel from what we've been led to understand. How does that happen? Then you have the incident with Moore and this woman he was alleged to have had an affair with. And I add all this up, and there's one conclusion I come to, and it's this. There is no way that Warde Manuel can be allowed to continue in his role as athletic director. There is no way he could be allowed to be the man that picks your next head coach. No way that Warde Manuel, who oversaw the Jim Harbaugh debacle, which, yes, led to a national championship, but a national championship clouded in controversy. There's no way that that man can continue to lead this university's athletic department. Good reporting says the team's going to hire a new coach in the next 5 to 10 days. And there's been a lot of great reporting, by the way, on this. It's nice to see journalism still alive. But in the next 5 to 10 days, it sounds like they're going to hire a new head coach. How Warde Manuel is allowed to be the guy who chooses who that next head coach is, I just don't see it. Who will that be? Let me know. Shoot me your thoughts on X at the back page. Who should that next head coach be? But this whole thing has to be stripped down to the studs. The head rots from the fish, and the fish rots from the head down is the saying, right? I got it wrong. It's fine. The fish rots from the head down. And the fish in this case was Jim Harbaugh. And he's gone. And everything associated with Harbaugh at this point, you need a clean slate. You have to start over when it comes to this football program. And if that means some guys bolt, if it means some guys head to the transfer portal, if some guys decommit, so be it. You have to get this right if you're the University of Michigan. Harbaugh bolted. He knew the punishment was coming. They had to go with Sherrone Moore. It just made sense to slide him in. Now you've moved on from Sherrone Moore. You have to move on from the entire thing now if you are the University of Michigan. Start clean. That includes Warde Manuel. A wild Thursday night NFL game kicked off Week 15. Sam Yarnell and I will discuss it next. Welcome back to this Friday edition of the show. Let's talk some more NFL. Get into it on the Thursday night stunner in Tampa. Sam Yarnell hanging out with us for a couple of segments today. Very busy show. Well, Sam, what do we make of, how much of this is an Atlanta coming out and playing hard for their coach story, playing for pride, trying to play the role of spoiler, Kirk Cousins turning back the clock? I said last night, we did a SportsWrap short on this, we being the royal we being me. We did this SportsWrap short, and I said very quickly in it that I felt like he may have earned himself those are the sorts of games that teams look at when they need a quarterback next year, potentially, a stopgap measure at starter or whatever, and say, oh, he could still play. That was the kind of game we got. Now, I know this is about Tampa losing back-to-back weeks to the Saints and the Falcons, Sam, and it's one of those things where, much like Detroit throughout the season, we go, oh, but they'll be okay. I don't feel that way about this Tampa Bay team. They had all their pieces back last night, and a lot of them played well. And still, at the end of the day, they figure out a way to blow a 28-14 lead in the fourth quarter to Atlanta. And now, while they still control their own destiny, because they'll play the Panthers twice, they have certainly not made it easy on themselves.
Kirk Cousins did what Kirk Cousins does against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as a member of the Atlanta Falcons. In his career as a Falcon, Kirk Cousins now 3-0 in 3 games, 11 passing touchdowns, 1 interception, and 1,158 yards. In 3 games, he's averaging nearly 400 yards a game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He just has the number of the Buccaneers defensive coordinator. That's what this boils down to. No, I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League next year. That ship has well and far sailed. He's being paid way too much money. His team has made him virtually untradeable. So I don't think he's going to be starting somewhere else in the NFL next year. The only place it would be Atlanta, because they're clearly throwing up all over themselves with their quarterback situation, right? If you're going to watch that quarterbacking last night and tell me Michael Penix could do a lick better than that, you're crazy. You haven't watched Michael Penix at all in the NFL in his career. So again, it was a disaster for the Falcons, or for the Buccaneers last night when they saw the Falcons were going to start Kirk Cousins. You have to imagine they were scared that the Buccaneer killer was coming back for them once again. And now, Jason, again, me, Panthers guy, massive Panthers guy, undefeated Panthers guy, here they come to win the NFC South.
What did we just say? I don't know if we said it at the end of last week or early this week when I was talking about the odds for teams to miss the playoffs. The one we pointed to was Carolina. I think it was was it plus 600 to make the playoffs or something? It was a high number. And I said, maybe Carolina's that pick. If you believe Carolina is going to win that division, that's obviously your pick. And it is there. I am curious to see, and Kyle Pitts showed up last night. And again, he shows up against Tampa Bay too. That's the Kyle Pitts that I've been waiting for literally since the day he was drafted out of Georgia. And he showed up last night. It is remarkable though, because you watch him and I cannot figure out why he has not translated to the NFL the way I thought he would, Sam.
Well, I mean, from a fantasy perspective, it's the best tight end performance we've seen since 1973, and I believe the 3rd best we've seen all time since they started keeping stats for receptions and touchdowns and receiving yards. It was incredible. I think that, it's part of the Kyle Pitts experience. As a guy who started Kyle Pitts on multiple fantasy teams last night, right? This is kind of what the gamble is, because once a season, he's going to go off and have a 2-touchdown game and have a, 8-reception, 100-yard game, one of the two, in this case, both, right? This just happened to be the week. And, from a fantasy football perspective, Jason, thank God it happened in week 1 of the playoffs, because, I know there were some people out there going up against the 3 or 4 seeds in their league, and they're going to walk away and win this week and move on in the playoffs, all because of one Atlanta tight end.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. And I think there is a possibility that, I wonder what the Falcons do, next, as we sort of move forward with the quarterback position based on what we saw out of Kirk Cousins, who could still clearly sling it. I mean, this was not an aberration. The guy could still clearly throw the football. He could still clearly play. And again, whether it's with the Falcons or somewhere else, obviously more likely with the Falcons, given the contract situation there. So now we look at the 2 of the last 3 weeks, or 2 of the next 3 weeks anyway, on this Tampa Bay team with Carolina, and I think they have Miami, if I'm not mistaken, is the other game. So it's certainly not easy for Tampa Bay here, but they have put themselves in a hell of a position, Sam. With this loss. And if you're Carolina right now, you've got to be licking your chops.
Yeah, and thank goodness that Carolina gets to play them twice in the final 3 weeks of the season, right? This division is really going to come down to these 2 games between these two. As much as, the Dolphins game will be fun, it's not going to matter, because if they, lose one of these 2 games against the Carolina Panthers, could be curtains on their season, quite frankly. You, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now, have put yourselves in a position where, all right, we were trying to hold them off and make it not matter, but it's going to matter. We're going to have to go toe-to-toe with this team, and we're going to have to beat them. And I'll tell you what, with Bryce Young's record in the 4th quarter, I'm not saying they can't. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're a more talented team through and through, 1 through 22 on that roster, 1 through 26, take it to special teams. But Bryce Young, I've said this all season, is one of the most clutch quarterbacks in the NFL. That's not to say he's one of the best. That's not to say he's one of the most talented. But the fact of the matter is, he is one of the most clutch quarterbacks in the NFL. And I'm not going to write them off against anybody right now.
Well, here's the reality, though. If you are, and there's a reason why the Buccaneers, I think, are still over 50% odds to make the playoffs. The reality is this. The Panthers have those 2 games they have the Saints this week. Don't fall asleep in New Orleans. And then you have the Buccaneers twice. Then their in-between game is the Seahawks. And that's a big deal because Seattle's still going to be playing for something. When you talk about potentially having the best record in the conference. So I still would lean Tampa Bay. I would still lean Tampa Bay to win the division. And that might mean Carolina doesn't make the playoffs because of just how difficult it is in the NFC right now.
There's only going to be one playoff team from this division.
Yeah. 8 losses isn't going to cut it. Sam will return for Paige versus the Prince a little later on in the show. Let us know what you think. Hit us up on X at the back page at Sam_Yarnell. Which team makes the playoffs? Panthers or the Bucs? We're back with Robert Littal next. We keep things moving on this Friday edition of the show. Talked about it a bit in the big story. Continue the conversation now on the Sherrone Moore situation in Michigan, at Michigan, and in Michigan, because he's not at Michigan anymore, but he's still in Michigan. Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, hangs out with us every Friday on the show. And he's an Ohio State guy, but certainly plugged in and has been doing a lot of coverage on Black Sports Online, on his X account as well at BSO on this whole thing. So we've had 48 hours or so to sort of soak in this and take it in. And there's obviously still more things to happen. As of the time we've put this together, I don't know if I don't think Sherrone Moore's been arraigned yet. But there's that aspect of the story, the legal aspect of the story. What comes to mind as you sort of watch all this play out, Robert?
Man, it's just everything is wrestling. I mean, it sounds like something from The Young and the Restless. That's a soap opera. It seems clear to me that at least Michigan, in the back of their minds, only saw Sherrone Moore as maybe a bridge coach. And he gave them so many reasons to let him, go. When you know that you're under the spotlight, you know that, the bosses are watching and your rope is very thin. You don't give people opportunities to, push you off the cliff. And it appears that he gave them multiple opportunities and they finally decided to pull the cord.
Yeah. I mean, look, we could sit here and say that they never really wanted him or he was never really the guy they wanted. They were, it was kind of a stopgap thing after Harbaugh left them after winning the national championship. But, I keep coming back to, and it's something we've all learned and heard throughout our careers. Don't crap where you eat. And he's put himself in this position, whether I've heard everything conspiracy theory saying, she was the honey trap and they were putting her out there and tried to tempt him. And clearly from some of the stuff that you've reported yourself, this is a guy that's got a hard time sort of, when it comes to fidelity, clearly, as a married man with 3 kids. And he was kind of putting it out there, wasn't he, Robert? I mean, this is anybody who's shocked by this hasn't really been paying attention to what Sherrone Moore puts out on social media and the vibe he's been pushing out there.
Well, now that it's out there, you hear all of these people, and the months keep going back. It's like, I knew in November. I heard in October. I got 4 text messages in September. I heard last summer. So it seems to me, that at least the rumor was out there, and at that point, you would think that if it was true, he would have tried a way to maybe extricate himself, from the situation, knowing how serious, it could be. I do hear that, he's been having some mental health, issues. I don't know if that contributed to some of the bad decisions. This is not a one-sided thing. Two people don't decide to, take off their clothes, individually. There's been no reports that, there was something nefarious as far as, being coerced or anything like that. So it does take two, to tango. But, as someone told me many years ago, never deal with someone that has more to lose than you or less to lose than you. And clearly in this aspect, Sherrone had a lot more to lose than the assistant, and that's why he's in the position that he's in right now.
But the timing of it all is suspicious. When you've got, when you've got the season, this was something that was obviously discussed before the season started, now that we've learned. He was questioned about whether this relationship was going on. He and the person involved deny it. Then they go through the whole season. They lose to Ohio State. If he beats Ohio State, if they make the college football playoff, is this coming out? Then you have recruiting. They go and get their recruits, sign the big ones. And then literally a day, right after that, after they've got all their ducks in a row, this woman comes forward and delivers the goods on everything needed to bury Sherrone Moore. I'm sorry, there's just something about the timing of it all, unless it's a really big coincidence, and we're taught not to really believe in coincidences. It just seems to me like something is amiss here. That there's something.
Simply put, if they're in the college, if they beat Ohio State and they're in the college football playoffs, at worst, maybe we hear about this, after New Year's, we see how far they went. I mean, I'm not saying that they wouldn't have fired the guy, but they definitely wouldn't have fired him, 2 weeks before a playoff game. And it would have been very difficult to hire him after 2 wins over Ohio State, especially with Ohio State being the number 1 team in the country, at that time. That's kind of college football. I spoke about Lane Kiffin. And you heard similar random things about Lane Kiffin, but they clearly said, you hear the Ole Miss people saying, well, he was winning. He was taking us to the playoffs. So all of this stuff only comes out after he leaves, the Kiffin files and all of these things like that. And, it just makes you wonder how much winning actually does cover up. But to me, Michigan, could have done more earlier, but they wanted to see how the season, played out. And now, with the pressure from the boosters, the pressure to get a high-profile coach to get back in the playoffs, to them, not to go all Shedeur Sanders on you, but it was perfect timing.
Robert, in the last minute I have in this segment, there's no way Warde Manuel can make this hire. I mean, he's overseen the Harbaugh era to this. How are you going to let Warde Manuel? And there's talk that he's going to keep his job. I don't know how that is, Robert. Am I missing something here?
Unless, he has been given the wink, if you take care of this, we'll take care of you, type of situation. Or if you don't take care of it, you'll be the fall guy, for it. I mean, it's really hard to tell. They need a clear. The Harbaugh area, let's say they got a championship out of it. But the sacrifices, if you want to call them sacrifices, that they made to get that championship is going to stay in the university for a very, very long time. And the fact that anytime you mention a championship, all of this, you thought the sign stealing was going to be the number 1 thing that's talked about. No. All of this is now going to be, part of that Harbaugh era.
Yeah, I said it before. They need a clean break from everything related to that era of Michigan football. They got to clean the slate. And that might mean players transferring and hitting the portal and recruits decommitting, but doesn't look good right now for Michigan football. There's more to get to on this and more to get to from around the world of sports with our friend Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online. Hangs out with us every Friday on SportsWrap. More with him next. Another segment with Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, hangs out with us every Friday here on the show. There's the story and then there's the coverage of the story. First you get Adam Schefter, a Michigan alum, who's out there, basically carrying water for Sherrone Moore. Then you've got Ryan Clark out there basically saying, basically speaking as if the black community is a monolith, or that, Sherrone Moore represents all black coaches and he's going to ruin it for every other black coach. And then I'm literally sitting there watching an NFL game last night with 2 black head coaches. And I'm sitting there going, no, he's not ruining this for everybody else. Is he, Robert?
I think when you're black, right, let me put it to you like this, is that there is this feeling that you can't make a mistake because it will hurt other people behind you. I'll tell you just a really quick story. When I started covering the NBA and I got my first credential to the NBA Finals, I did get pulled aside because I was an internet site. I was independent. And I was told, when I'm asking questions, the way I present myself, while I'm there, that I had to be very careful and that I couldn't make many mistakes, not just because it might cost me my credential in the future, but they're using me as kind of a test subject for internet sites and people that look like me coming, behind me. And I don't know if they had this same conversation with the white, reporters that were there. I can only, tell you what they told me. And that's a lot of pressure. And so I do think sometimes, as black people, when you see a black person kind of go down, it does concern you. Are we going to get another chance? Are we going to get another? My first thought was, I hope Marcus Freeman keeps 10 feet away from any woman that comes into his area, because he's a guy that a lot of people look up to, and he's everybody likes Marcus Freeman, and he makes other schools say, we want a Marcus Freeman. Well, Marcus Freeman looks like me. So I think there's some truth to all of it, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I can understand where Ryan Clark is coming from, and also I can understand where Adam Schefter is coming from, as an alum. But as a black man, I can tell you, you do get that little knot in your stomach, and you wonder, hey, Lane Kiffin, fails up. Will Sherrone Moore even ever get another job in college football, after this? I mean, Petrino has gotten multiple jobs since, what happened to him. Will Sherrone Moore get that opportunity?
Well, but here's the thing.
If that's the case.
Okay, but here's the thing. And here's what I would fire back with. As far as this goes. If he doesn't get another job, it might be because of the assault stuff that's potentially coming down the pike, and the mental health issues. And how do you have somebody like that leading young men, or even leading grown men, if you're talking about the NFL and him having to make a move to there. Here's the thing. Ime Udoka got another opportunity. And he had a very similar situation, minus the arrest and the assault and all that, the alleged assault or whatever it's going to come out on that. Ime Udoka got another opportunity. He sat out a year and he got a cushy gig. He got a really good gig in Houston with the Rockets now, with a team that's expected to contend. So and look,
I think it depends also on the sport. Basketball, NBA specifically, has always been African-American centric. Mm-hmm. They've also been at the forefront of coaching. They also been at the forefront of social justice. Easier, I think, transition. We've seen a lot of assistants, people get jobs because there are a lot of, black coaches, there. So I think college football has lagged behind the NFL, behind some other, sports, but even, baseball has had many black, managers and things like that. College football has gotten better, but there was a time when there was none. So I think you have something like 118 schools. I know over 100, schools, and it's still, only a handful. And Sherrone Moore had one, not just a job, a premier job, a blue blood, job. So in the long run, if it's a good candidate, could Marcus Freeman get any job he wants? Would they bring in Marcus Freeman to Michigan? Of course, right now, but it's just one of those things. I think history makes you feel a certain way as a black man about it, where you're like, oh man, why, why, and then, you have to talk about the dynamic of the woman, that he's with, that she's white. Mm-hmm. That brings a whole nother discussion, out, even though I have no issues with interracial relationships, but there is a lot of conversation, about that. Even the fact that the woman that he cheated on was white. So it takes an intelligent person to have like these hard conversations, about it. So that's why I don't invalidate anybody's opinion, because I can definitely understand where everybody's coming from.
Before I let you go, And we're going to have Robin Lundberg on from SI and the Robin Lundberg Show on YouTube to talk about this here in just a couple of minutes. I know you're a wrestling guy. John Cena wraps up his career Saturday night's main event against Gunther. And I'm curious to sort of get your thoughts on, I hate asking the Mount Rushmore question, but he's got to be on the Mount Rushmore, doesn't he? Or is he just off of the Mount Rushmore? If there was a fifth, he would be
part of my
it.
generation. And our generation grew up in the Attitude Era. And, he's a little bit after that. He carried, the company for a very long period of time. And, he has such a persona about him that, when you speak about wrestling and the history of wrestling, his name is going to come up, and it's going to come up high. I think right now, if you think about wrestling, you think about Hulk Hogan, you think about Stone Cold Steve Austin, you think about Ric Flair, you think about The Rock,
Undertaker,
and then, kind of right after that, it's John Cena. And also, he has possibly the greatest intro song of all time. That's one of the best beats I've ever heard in the history of hip-hop, not just, wrestling. And also, I've met John Cena on multiple occasions.
Okay.
One of the nicest guys that you could ever meet.
Robert Littal, founder of Black Sports Online. I always appreciate you, my friend. Check him out at BSO on X. We'll continue covering the Sherrone Moore story, and obviously we'll follow up on it next week. Thank you, my friend.
All right, I appreciate you. Have a great one.
We'll wrap it up with Paige versus the Prince. 4 NFL picks from myself and Sam Yarnell. I've stopped keeping track of my record because I've stunk all year. I always love to get this guy's opinion on anything wrestling related. He also joins us to talk women's basketball from time to time as well. Robin Lundberg, host of the Robin Lundberg Show, over on YouTube. You can see him on X, as in the website, not X as in the drug. Robin Lundberg hangs out with us on the show today. SI does a great job on women's basketball too. So I brought you on to talk about the John Cena retirement tour, which finally ends. It feels like it's been a while since he announced it was going to be his final year in WWE. It closes with Saturday night's main event against Gunther on Saturday night. And I'm curious. I know this is the lazy question. You're not supposed to ask this question, so please don't judge me, because we've known each other long enough that I don't think you'll judge me. Does he make the Mount Rushmore? I mean, as celebrated as he is right now, Robin, and as much as he's being celebrated, I don't even know if we're talking top 4 greatest of all time. Is he making that list?
I think, look, he certainly has a case, and I don't think you can go greater than 5 without including him, right? So I think if you look at it and you go Hogan, Rock, Austin, Flair, Cena, those have to be the 5 in some order, way, shape, or form. With, the Undertaker has a case on longevity. Yeah. Roman Reigns is building a case now as like the next guy to etch his face there. But I think you can't go 5 deep without seeing John Cena.
Yeah, but that's it. I think he's 5. I think he's like, if there's a mountain next to the mountain, I think he's on that one. And that's kind of where I am with it, where I think he just misses that top 4. How have you felt about the way they handled this final year for him?
I think it's been great, other than the lack of logic on the heel turn, which is a huge error and blunder. Like the Rock and Travis Scott come out there and John Cena turns heel, and there's just no explanation, no follow-up, no nothing. It seemed like a cheap parlor trick. And that's a bit of a kick in the gut, right? Like, especially like a guy, John Cena, who's been the babyface his whole career. So to pull something that drastic and then have no payoff. But ever since they kind of just like tried to Men in Black mind erase that before SummerSlam. It was Friday on SmackDown before SummerSlam. Cena cut the promo that flipped him the other way. Then he has the great match with Cody Rhodes, and it's been all gas, no brakes since then. He's really been carrying the company low key. So I think you got everything you'd wanted to see in a John Cena retirement tour. You got the match with Cody. You got the great match with AJ Styles. You got a heel turn. You got this tournament. You got a lot of it. It just has that one big pothole in the middle of it that's hard to get around.
How do you feel about Gunther being his final opponent?
I think it makes sense. I mean, I think it makes sense. You know, it's the monster that either he conquers to go off or that they continue to elevate. And then I'm a little torn because I kind of want to see John Cena win his last match. But at the same time, you know, generally you go out on your back, right? Or whatever. And it would be a big thing for Gunther at this point in his career. So I'm curious to see how it unfolds.
I just hope they handle it better than they handled Goldberg's last match. And I know they're different and they come from different eras and it was a different setup. And Goldberg, you know, was a guy who popped up once every year or every 2 years here over the last, 4 or 5 years of his career. The way that whole thing ended that night, where they didn't even really show the final farewell sort of the right way, I hope they have a better plan in place for John Cena than they had for that.
Yeah, look, I mean, and the Goldberg thing, though, was kind of a, here's a retirement match for you. This John Cena thing is a tour, right? Like it has been so I would imagine this send-off will be done well and appropriately. And again, other than that one big misstep, I think most of it has hit and has hit the high notes. And I'm just curious, does he tap out to Gunther? Does he actually win against Gunther? I really don't know how it's going to go. And that is a good setup because a different opponent, maybe you kind of have an idea of exactly how it's going to unfold.
Of the greats in sports, we often, when somebody says, like Tom Brady is actually retiring, we're like, but is he really? I won't believe it for a year. In the case of Cena, do you believe this really is it?
Yes. Look, I mean, I think John Cena did not have to do this. He already was a Hollywood star at this point. He already was, essentially retired from WWE. It's not like he was an active performer or wrestler. So I think this was his way of saying, I appreciate and understand what got me to where I am now. So instead of just like forgetting that and moving on and moving past it, I'm going to honor that. I'm going to honor the people that helped me get where I am. And that's what this retirement tour is actually about. So I do believe it is I'm sure he can make an appearance or something, but I do believe this is his genuine farewell.
Who will be the next in the last 45 seconds here? Who will be the next big retirement? Is it AJ Styles?
Probably something along those lines. Oh, no, I heard they actually might do a Brock Lesnar retirement tour.
Oh, stop it.
Yeah.
But really, I think it's AJ Styles. That's sort of the next one, isn't it?
I mean, yeah, but look, no disrespect to AJ Styles. He's beloved within the pure wrestling community, but it's not quite the same as the celebrity of John Cena.
No, obviously not. But we're getting to that point where you're going to start flipping. Roman Reigns is getting up in years. There's going to be a sort of a turning over of the mantle, if you will. A passing of the torch happens in everything, sports and obviously in sports entertainment. Robin Lundberg does a terrific job. SI on the women's basketball, the Robin Lundberg Show over on YouTube. Thank you, my friend.
Yep, Busted Open tomorrow on Sirius talking about this as well.
Just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Friday. A few reminders for you on this Friday. First of all, check out SportsWrap Weekend Edition. 30 minutes on many of these same affiliates. If not, check your local listings for time and schedule. It might be on a sister station in your market of whatever you're watching right now. It is a recap of everything we went through during the week, the top segments, and a little extra. Sports Wrap with Jason Page Weekend Edition. Make sure to go and check that out. Also, if you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon. Anywhere you get a podcast, you can get this show. Monday through Friday, 45 minutes, sitting right there for you early in the afternoon. It is a great way to spend your drive home while you're in the shower, laying in bed, while you're cooking something in the kitchen. Put it on your Alexa or whatever, that device is that you have in your kitchen that you're talking to all the time and hoping to get a response from. Make sure to check out the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. We also have the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel, which is really, we've put a lot of work into this. I hope you go and check it out. Subscribe. You get this show, the TV version of Sports Wrap, commercial free Monday through Friday, early in the afternoon. It is available there before it is available anywhere else. In addition to that, we have Sports Wrap Shorts. These are 1 to 3 minute commentaries, recaps on games. Generally, they're only about a minute long, unless I'm talking about Sherrone Moore, and then it gets a little longer-winded, I guess you could say. But go and check out Sports Wrap Shorts, available on our Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Subscribe. It's free. It's fantastic. Sports Wrap Shorts also available on our TikTok channel, Sports Wrap Jason Page, and on our Instagram, Sports Wrap Jason Page. And on this Friday, without any further delay, Sam Yarnell, there's only one thing left to do: strike up the band.
It's Friday, and that means it's time for the weekly face-off for sports betting bragging rights. It's Page versus the Prince on the Sports Wrap.
Thank you, Chad Erickson. Got a nice, fresh new logo. We freshened things up a little bit. Sam Yarnell, week 15 in the NFL. I don't know how we did last week. I've sucked so bad this year, I've just given up. Which means by default, I've made you give up. Pick me 4 winners.
Yeah, Jason, I think I was either 2-2 or 3-1 last week. I don't know. Hope you had the over in just about every game. I think there was only one under that came in last week. Anyway, wow. To this week we go. We'll start out west. Give me the Broncos plus 2.5 at home against the Green Bay Packers. Listen, I get the whole Jordan Love Toyota-thon thing. They've been playing well, sure, whatever. The fact of the matter is the Broncos have a top 3 defense in the NFL, and you're asking Jordan Love to go 2 Mile High, and you're making him a favorite? Yeah, I'll take the Broncos in this game. Give me Denver plus 2.5 at home against the Green Bay Packers. Next, I'll go to Cincinnati. Give me another home dog where the Cincinnati Bengals are catching 2.5 against the Baltimore Ravens. This comes down to as simple as the Bengals are playing better football than the Ravens are right now. And I know the wins and losses may not dictate it, but look at the teams they've been playing and tell me the Bengals haven't been playing better football than the Baltimore Ravens have right now. I'll take Cincinnati. I'll take them plus 2.5 at home against the Baltimore Ravens. In the Meadowlands, we're going to get some weird weather over the weekend here on the East Coast. I don't know if this will play into the total as much. What I do know will play into the total is that Marcus Mariota is starting once again for the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels ruled out. And I know that may lead some people to think, maybe they're spunky. Maybe they'll win this week. Well, it leads me to think no one's going to score any points. The front 7 for the New York Giants, you kidding me? I'll go under 46.5 in Cowboys Giants this weekend. And
Commanders
finally,
Giants?
Jason Page,
You mean Commanders Giants, right?
Yeah, did I say Cowboys
Giants?
Yeah,
you did.
Yes,
it's okay.
Commanders
I'm
Giants.
just making sure.
Marcus Mariota against the Giants. Not going to score a lot of points. Under 46.5. Browns Bears 38.5. You can make this number 17.5, and I'd probably still bet the under. The Bears offense hasn't looked great recently, but the Browns defense is awesome, and I don't trust Shedeur Sanders to score a bunch. We'll go Browns Bears under a low number, 38.5. Commanders Giants under 46.5, and 2 home dogs, the Broncos and the Bengals, each catching 2.5.
I don't know how the Chiefs are minus 5.5 at home against the Chargers, based on the Chiefs we continue to see, Sam Yarnell. And I'm going to do something I have not done all season long. I'm picking against the Chiefs in my first game. Give me the Chargers plus 5.5. Who's got it better than Jim Harbaugh? Well, not Shamar. I almost called him Shamar Moore. Sherrone Moore. Give me the Chargers plus 5.5 in that one. I think the Eagles come out steaming mad. The Raiders can't protect their starting quarterbacks no matter who they are right now. I like the Eagles minus 11.5. I am not normally a big fan of big spreads like this, but this is one where I will go with the Eagles minus the 11.5. The Jaguars and Jets, however, I feel a little bit differently when it comes to the big spread. The Jaguars are notorious for playing down to the level of competition, and this will be another example of that. I will take the Jets getting the points. Last but not least, New England and Buffalo. Look, I can't imagine Buffalo not winning this game. I know everybody's talking about, what this team has done in New England all year. I'll take Buffalo minus the 1.5. Those are my picks. Page versus the Prince, week 15 in the NFL. Any last words, Sam?
I love your card this week, Jason.
Ooh, means I'm going 1-3. It's going to do it for us. Thanks to Robert Littal and Robin Lumberg, all of you for watching at home. Sam, have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you all back here on Monday for another edition of Sports Wrap.